This is the Perception of Safety on Ohio State University's main campus by me, Justin, and Rose, who will be presenting later on. Our survey topic. Our survey was aimed to evaluate the overall perception of safety within the Ohio State University's main campus by students attending the university. The survey's target population. So the survey targeted a population of undergraduate students at OSU, particularly undergraduate students who live within campus dormitories on campus. So this includes housing provided by the university itself. Survey questions. The survey consisted of 17 total questions, all directed to obtain facts like demographic information, so the age and sex of these students, their housing arrangements, so whether they're on or off campus, as well as if they live in university housing. Their academic standing, so their undergraduate year, race, and ethnicity. And then it also aimed to obtain facts like perception of campus safety. So overall perception of safety on campus, how often do safety incidences occur that students are aware of, the effectiveness of campus police and security, as well as the safest and most dangerous areas of campus, potential improvements and recommendations for a safer campus, students' confidence in reporting safety concerns, their main safety concerns in general, and then the impact of these concerns they have on daily decisions, like walking around on campus and such, and the safety emergency response preparation by the university itself. The survey data source. The data collected from our survey was sourced from a population of undergraduate students here at OSU. Specifically, data was sourced for both male and female students that are first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and above year students during their undergraduate studies. Students who lived on campus in university-provided housing. Students who lived off of campus or near campus in private residences. And then students that were aged between 18 and 24 years old. The survey population potential representation. So based on our survey results, our target population results could potentially be generalized to undergraduate students aged between 18 and 24 years old and who are currently enrolled at universities with similar demographic, housing, and institutional characteristics as OSU. And this includes a population containing both male and female students, students across all years of their undergraduate studies, and students who are living on campus as well as off campus in private housing property. Generalizations could also be further made to potentially reach graduate students and potentially different demographic profiles. This includes a wider variety of age. The data collection mechanisms and our recruitment. So our data was collected through the online survey platform Qualtrics. The survey then used email, university electronic newsletters, and social media platforms that targeted OSU undergraduate students to recruit students for the survey particularly. Formatting the survey this way allowed for many benefits, including efficient distribution, ease of response tracking, and the ability to analyze the data digitally. So this all streamlined the process. Statistical methods that we used. So to effectively evaluate and determine the data that we received in our survey, we used a variety of statistical methods to produce our results. This included hypothesis testing, which included t-tests and ANOVA testing. And then we also used chi-square tests, and then as well as general descriptive statistics. So the calculation of means, medians, and standard deviations based off of the survey responses. The statistical software and sample summary. So the statistical software we used for the analysis of our data was RStudio. And then the summary of the statistics for our variable types were reported as three main categories. So we had categorical variables, which included the gender, year of study, and the living arrangements of each student. Continuous variables, which was the student's age, any numerical survey scores, as well as ratings of safety perception by university police and security and their efficacy. And it also included means, medians, and standard deviations in numerical responses. And then lastly was ordinal variables. So Likert scale responses of preparedness of the safety emergency for students by the university itself.
This is Rose from Group 11, and I will be summarizing the results and conclusions of our study. So for our first research question, is there an association between sex and how they perceive campus safety? We used the Fisher's test to test for the hypotheses, and we got p-value of 0.4301, which means that we would fail to reject the null hypotheses. And for this Fisher's test, we will be comparing whether the proportion of male female are different between how they perceive safety, which is on the scale of not safe at all, somewhat unsafe, somewhat safe, and extremely safe. And to read off the numbers, we have one male who perceives that the campus is not safe at all, and two people who think it's somewhat unsafe, and five people who think it's somewhat safe, one person who thinks it's extremely safe. And for the females, 0% said not safe at all. Four people thinks it's somewhat safe, and 13 people think that it's somewhat safe, and one person thinks it's extremely safe. So for our next research question, we asked, is the mean age the same for the various safety concerns students have? So for this question, we used the Tukey's test to compare whether the mean ages of these different concerns are significantly different from each other. And since we got a p-value of 0.3202, we would fail to reject a null hypothesis, meaning there is no significant difference between the mean ages of these various safety concerns, such as cyberbullying, theft, physical assault, others, and drug or alcohol abuse, and sexual assault. Um, Moving on to the next research question. Is there an association between whether students live on campus and improvements they feel would make campus safer? And for this hypothesis test, we used the Fisher's test. And like the first test, we will be comparing whether the proportion of people who live on campus versus off campus between um, how between the multiple improvements that they feel would make campus safer, such as better accessibility to police security, better lighting on campus at night, increased security / police patrols, more security cameras on campus, and others. And since our p-value is 0.825, we would fail to reject our null hypotheses, meaning there is no significant difference between the proportion of people who live on campus versus off campus between all of these different improvements that students feel would make campus safer. And for our last research question, is there an association between how often students hear or witness safety incidences on campus in the last 12 months and how effective they find the police department? So for this question, we also use the Fisher's test, and we are comparing the proportion of people who witness safety incidences, or the amount of times they witness safety instances on campus, with whether they're different from how effective they all find the police department, which is on the scale from not effective at all to extremely effective. And for the scale of how often people witness safety incidences, it varies from very frequently, which is one or more times per week, to rarely, which is one or more times a semester. And since our p-value is 0.6564, we would fail to reject the null hypotheses, meaning there is no significant difference between the proportion of people who witness safety incidences on campus and how often students hear or how effective they find the police department. So to summarize all of these research questions, for our first research question, we would conclude that there is no association between sex and how the population perceive campus safety. And for our second question, we would conclude that the mean age is not the same for the various safety concerns students have. For the third conclusion, we would say that there is no association between whether students live on campus and improvements they feel would make campus safer. And for our last conclusion, we would say that there is no association between how often students hear or witness safety incidences on campus in the last 12 months and how effective they find the police department.